Welcome everybody, a big Division 1 clash now between myself at the bottom of the screen and Oliver King at the top. Oliver's leading the division on 55 points, I'm 48. There's the historical data, I'll just keep that up for a second. We've only played twice, but as you can see by the total points at the bottom, 20 points to 4 in Oliver's favour, so kind of a boogeyman for me. I'm back to my black-white vampires deck that I've been playing all season except last week. And Oliver looks like he's on red-black. This vampire deck, I'm trying out the metallic mimics this week. This is the first time. I've sort of had some discussions with Wim de Kock, Eric Helden, who I didn't get the idea of the deck from him. I got it from some European players, but I've sort of been tweaking it with him. So Oliver misses his third land drop there, so I'm still trying to resolve some creatures. I'm a bit surprised that he used the magma spray on the Martyr of Dusk to start with, and again here you can see the Abrade. I mean, I can understand the first one because it exiles, so I don't get the vampire, but the second time I get the vampire and I also get the mimic trigger. So he's down to 12. This is a pretty good start for me. Heart of Quran is a difficult card to deal with Seal Away. Goblin Chainwhirler is going to take out my Mimic. So at that particular point I had the option of casting out the Chainwhirler so I could keep up the pressure, but it's only 2 points, so I didn't bother. I'm hoping he's going to swing it this time so that I can get some value from my Seal Away, but unfortunately Oliver's too smart for that. Here I give him the unlicensed disintegration, otherwise I lose 2 creatures to the Chainwhirler. Yeah, and you can even see he uses Khan to crew, so he's playing around Seal Away right there. So I kind of have to make a decision now. How am I going to go about this? Heart of Quran is a damn nuisance. I'm going to just cast out Khan straight away, stop the card draw, and pass the turn. I still have Seal Away, so I'm taking 4 a turn here. What I'm really in the market for is a Lord. I've got access to 8 of them, if you count Radiant Destiny. This is a pretty... Chainwheel is not a good card for me because this is going to... Legion's Landing here is going to force him to have a spell because I'm going to have to attack. I'll attack into the Goblin Chainwhirler. You can see I activate the Ifna Deadlands, so Chainwhirler just becomes weaker. And I do this so that he would need to tap 2 creatures to crew the Heart of Quran. So he's kind of forced to use his Abrade there. Yeah, I was saying against Chainwhirler decks, it's not the end of the world here because... so I take down Pierre and Kieran, so he can't crew the Heart of Quran now. Chainwhirler is not the end of the world, but it means that I do need to get a Lord out before I can play my creatures, because you can see right now I've got 3 1/1s, so Chainwhirler would just wipe that board, and you can see he minuses to get one, so I know there's a Chainwhirler coming next turn. So I desperately need a Lord right now, and I don't get it. So here I'm just going to go for a flipped Legion's Landing. My thinking here is that I pump the team to swing at Khan. It means he's got to lose his board in order to block. So he'll activate the Heart of Quran through Khan, but he'll lose the Chainwhirler and the Thopter. And also gives me a bit of life as well. So my Adanto can flip. Yep, so he crews it up and blocks as I expected him, except he had a magma spray which kind of ruined that plan a little bit. I quickly give him the land, so I know the Chainwheel is coming, but he might not cast it here because you can see I've only got 1 vampire left, so he's not going to get good value, but still knocks me down to 8. He plays it, I don't mind, I'm only losing 1 creature. But now I really need something decent, so I'm going to play the card draw first. Ixalan's Binding is a good one. Now, at this stage, I'm getting pounded by Khan with the card draw, and I'm also getting pounded by the Heart of Quran. And I think I misplay here. Yeah, because I target the Heart of Quran, but he abrades my blocker, and so that's the end of the game. So we're going to game 2 now. You can see I've got the Radiant Destiny in my opening hand and a Legion's Lieutenant, so I'm pretty happy with this draw. I don't know why this program is doing this. It did this yesterday as well. It seems to cut out the... That's a pretty bad keep there from Oliver. So I can only take the Abrade. He's got a blister and 6 lands. Yeah, there's something wrong with it. It keeps cutting out the first part and replaying it just for a split second. So I named Vampire, so now all my vampires are safe. Red-black has no way to deal with enchantments. All my vampires are safe now from the Chain Whirler. And you can see I've got a pretty good follow-up here. It's going to be a Call to the Feast. I get 3 2/2s, so next turn I can play a Legion's Lieutenant and they're going to be all 3/3s. And also when I play my land, it's going to give me City's Blessing for the... so they all have Vigilance. And I'm a bit surprised that he didn't actually use the Ballista to shoot something down in response there. He can lose it this turn if he targets the Legion Lieutenant. He'd have to put a counter, take a turn to put a counter on it. But I think he would just be dead on board, so that's not an option for him. He decides to load up on chump blockers. And here's one of my spicy sideboard cards that I got from Whim. It's Crested Sunmere, so all my vampires tokens have lifelink. So I'm going to get a 5/5 horse whenever I gain life. So all the knuckleheads come in. At this stage I'm thinking what he can possibly do to win this. He's going to abrade one down, the Lieutenant, but he's only trading at this point, which I don't mind, because I'm going to get the 5/5, that's what's important. Also the Crested Sunmere is 5 points, means it's outside of most of his removal. The only thing he has that can actually take it down, I believe, is Unlicensed Disintegration. But I think even if I strike once here, the damage is done. And I don't know why he didn't block anything there. I think he's just dead on board now. So he plays a Heart of Quran. I think there was a misplay there from Oliver. He needed to block something. Cast out. I don't need to do anything silly here. So he's going to Unlicensed Disintegration the Sunmere, but I still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attackers. He's only got 3 blockers, so he's... I could cast out, but you can see he's only got 1 card in hand as well, just in case he's got a Magma Spray. So he'll sack the Ballista in response. And you can see now he's down to 1. I can't see what he can possibly find from here to save him. And he can't find anything. So this little bug again, I'm gonna have to mull to 5. And we get to see that again. And another card where I vary from Whim here is with Mavrin Fian. I got 2 of them in my deck. I think he's just an absolute beast, especially when you play Dusk Legion Zaliot on turn 2 into, or the other 2 drop into it is awesome. But I'm down to 10 pretty quickly here. I need to start gaining life, so I play Call to the Feast. That's 6 life right there. Yeah, this is an important part of the game right now because Oliver actually misses a land drop here. So I bought Sorcerer's Spyglass in, and I actually wanted to name Heart of Quran, but he actually activated Scrap Heap Scrounger, and then once I saw that there's 2 Chandras and a Khan, I kind of had to change routes. You can see he's a land short, but ultimately I decided to. This was a really tough choice. I was so tempted to just name Heart of Quran so I could get him next turn, but then I thought if he draws a Chandra and he can play it, 2 Chandras will be really hard to beat. So I named Chandra. Here I don't really want to swing in, I'm going to wait a turn I think. Khan is the other one, because if he decides to tap out for Khan next turn, he just dies. Khan just dies. Because I would have one extra coming through. And I'm really surprised that he targeted the vampire. He actually said in chat later on there that he didn't know that Maverin Fiend can trigger itself. So every time Maverin Fiend attacks, he can make a 1/1 vampire with lifelink, which is huge. So I go to 4. But here I kind of need to start gaining life. So they all come in. Maverin Fiend gets me another lifelinker. I expect to trade the Heart of Quran with Maverin Fiend here. I just want to get that Heart of Quran off the battlefield because it's super hard to deal with. I've only got 2 Fatal Push, I think it is, in my main, but he doesn't give it up. I do gain some life, and you can see I go back to 10, so I'm pretty happy, but that's a crucial point right there. He goes to 4. I know he's got that Glory Bringer. Glory Bringer is probably going to take down my Legion Lieutenant and do 4 damage to me. So he taps out for Khan. I've actually got lethal on board right now, but he still plays it ultra conservative. I'm just desperate. Like, please give me a any removal spell, like a cast out or something, to get that Heart of Quran. So I actually misplay here because I should have sent some lifelinkers in just to boost my life total, but I'm hoping he doesn't get the 5th land. But as soon as he does get the 5th land, then that's game, because he can activate Heart of Quran. I can't block, so we're going to Modern. And again, there's that timing issue with the encoding. He's on. Both of us are pretty. We play these decks quite consistently. He's on Red Black Hollow One. I'm on Green White Value Town. I don't believe that either of us have changed to. Sometimes I play Blue Moon. I was actually tempted to fire up the Blue Moon today, but I stuck with the Hollow One. Oh, sorry, I stuck with the Company. I can't block because that thing's got Menace. So that was a huge pickup, Scavenger News, because you can see he's got the Lingering Souls. Lingering Souls is really tough for me to beat because I don't really have any flyers in this deck. Initially he goes to bolt my, so you can see he shocked himself, but then he's like, oh crap, the Voice of Resurgence, no I can't do that, so he's got to untap, and that's pretty important for me because the red-black deck runs, it doesn't run a huge amount of mana, so I'd rather him having to use that on his own turn and only have access to 1 instead of 2. See, the Goblin Law here. Again, I go to 11, so that's a nice pickup. I'll swing this time, and it's the Company player passes the turn with 4 mana available. I think everybody knows what that is this time. You can see he's got the Flamewake Phoenix there. He's going to be able to get that back this turn. So Burning Inquiry is going to force me to play the Company because it means both players discard. So I have to do this before the inquiry resolves. 2 knights is an awesome pickup there. But what here, because that flame blade is a 7, you can see I've got lethal on the crackback, but I can't afford to let the flame blade hit because if he has a lightning bolt in hand, then I'm just dead. And particularly that's a big play there. He doesn't activate the Phoenix, so that tells me he does have the bolt. So I have to double block. I'm going to lose both my knights, but I stay alive, and he loses his flame blade. And so you can see there's the bolt. He bolts at the end. I think he would have got me if he had activated the Phoenix and possibly not attacked, but yeah, it's a tough one to call, that one. And so scores at 10-10. I'm pretty happy with where I am now. I think I've got this one in the bag, particularly with the Path to Exile in hand and a tireless tracker that's going to start drawing me cards. Bloodghasts I don't really care because I've got Corsa. Corsa can easily block those, and also tireless tracker is going to be down to block them next turn. Likewise with Tasigur here, I don't really care about Tasigur either because I can Voice of Resurgence on the Tasigur to block, and it will give me a big blocker in exchange. Flamewake Phoenix comes back, so I'll just path the Phoenix immediately. Now this is a huge play. I'm just going to explain this. I go to 9. I go to 7. Okay, so you can see I've got the Bazooka Bog there. I play the tracker out first. I play the Bog just to get the clue. I've got Voice of Resurgence coming next turn. I'm at 8 life. I'm gaining life from the Corsa. You can see I've got a Ghost Quarter, so I can actually go to 9. I can Ghost Quarter myself and go to 10. I can also draw from Horizon Canopy. So what happens here is kind of controversial between Oliver and myself. He's got 2 cards in hand, so here he swings. I'll just pause that for a second. I've got a straight block with the Corsa on the Bloodghast, and I can straight block the Tasigur with the Voice of Resurgence, which will give me a token. I can then play the Voice of Resurgence next turn, which would be a 4/4 token, which means I've got 9 power damage on the board to go with my what would be 10 life. Something fucks up and I can't block, and so he finishes me off with a lightning bolt. That's a I don't know what happened with X-Mage there, but it's there's no rollbacks turned on. I believe I had that match won, so I was quite salty about that at the time, but you know, move on. No rollbacks, nothing can be done about it, so we go to game 2. And we get to see it again. Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that and find out why this program is doing that. So he takes quite a while to resolve this faithless looting. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? What did he put away? And he only put lands in a Goblin Lore, so I'm guessing he was thinking about keeping the creatures. Collector Company is huge here. I just have to shock myself because I want to keep up Voice of Resurgence and a Path to Exile. It's kind of telegraphing a bit, but you know, I'm at 12. I can't really afford. Like his deck can actually kill me from here quite easily with Flameblade. They both have Menace, so I can only block 1, but if he had some sort of removal spell as well, I'd just be dead. Path to Exile was the removal spell I was thinking about it. I don't know if his deck actually plays it. I don't know the deck that well, but the White Splash I'm guessing is just for Lingering Souls, but better to be safe than sorry, especially after my punt last week in Standard. So here's Faithless loading, and at this point what I'm thinking is I'm quite happy for him to just cast as many spells as he wants, makes those Flame Blades massive. Then I can path one and double block the other, and I get 2 major threats off the battlefield, particularly when he doesn't have a lot of cards left in hand. But that kind of complicates things. So I'm just going to straight up path one of them. He's tapped out. He decides not to attack, and at that point I'm pretty happy. Collected Company, pass with 4 up. I think I've got him covered at this point. Particularly if I can find a Knight of the Reliquary. If I can get a Knight, then this one's over. He's out of cards now. He plays Burning Inquiry, so like game 1, I'm going to be forced to fire off my company before combat. Not the best company, but I find another Voice of Resurgence, which is awesome. And what people don't, they kind of underestimate the explosiveness of this green-white company deck. I've actually got lethal on board here. If he attacks, I just need him to crack that fetch, which I believe, I think he does. Not sure what was happening. I'll just skip ahead a bit here. Okay, so he's going to get the Flame Wake back. So he goes to 14. So I've got lethal on board if he attacks, which he does. So I've sucked him in here. So you can see all my voices will die, but they'll come back as huge threats. I go to 4, but then I've got 14 damage on board. He's tapped out, no mana. He doesn't want to concede, so our old friend is going to come in any moment now. There he is. And we're going to game 3. Game 3, a big card in my opening hand. Worship. Red-black has no way to deal with enchantments, so I'm pretty confident if I can get to survive to turn 4, I've got this one. And you can see I've also got a Settle the Wreckage as an option there as well. There's my MVP, Voice of Resurgence. So my strategy at this point is that I just want to block. I can take that block because that'll be a 2/2 next turn. My strategy is I just want to block to get to turn 4. If I can get to turn 4, I can worship with Collected Company. And I believe he wouldn't be able to beat that. I mean, he'd have to kill all my creatures, and I'd have 3 or 4 creatures. I don't believe he would have the removal to be able to do it. So I'm pretty happy with that Lightning Bolt there. It is a super risky, I go to 10, but I decide to hold up Settle the Wreckage just in case he has some lethal attack here. So you can see he's at 9. If he can get one more, which he can, he's got lethal on board now. So he's got 10 on board. And that's a really interesting attack to me because I played Settle the Wreckage previously. So I'm suspecting he did his homework and he watched my game against Julia. So he knows that I have Settle the Wreckage. He's got 6 on board. No way those creatures can be pumped to do 10. So I'm deciding I'm going to company here. Most of the creatures I'll find from company will outclass that Bloodghast anyway. So you can see he's got lethal on board from haste threats, so I'm kind of lucky that I took that path, and you can see a 6/6. I took the Corsa just to start gaining life. You can see Scavenging Ooze is coming next, so at this stage I think I've got this one. Hollow one's down, I only take 2. I tapped my mana to present Path to Exile there. I probably should have left the Ghost Quarter open, particularly if the Corsa in the Knight. I could have gained life and made the Knight bigger. Just a minor point for green-white player. At this stage I'm looking, okay, what am I going to start eating with that Scavenging Ooze? You can see he's got 3 cards in hand. I'm thinking, what does he have? I've seen no evidence that he can take down a 6/6 Knight with removal. Plays out a Lingering Soul, so he's down to 2 cards. So Scavenging Ooze, and there's my Worship. So I don't believe he can beat this. Particularly, he's got 2 cards in hand. Even if he can somehow remove my entire board, I'm getting 2 more creatures. So I can swing. He can only block 2 power there. That's 8 damage coming through. He drops to 4. I've got lethal on the board. I don't even need to block. I'm not interested in blocking. So he can bolt down. He's going to use a double bolt here to take down Knight. So I think that's 3 bolts he's used now. So he's only got 1 bolt left. Still has to get 2 creatures off the board. I'll just gain a little bit of life because it's kind of awkward. I've only got 2 green sources here. Just to make that Scavenging Ooze bigger, I can get in. He has to block the ooze, otherwise I can just pump it more and win. I could have probably pumped Gavany Township there as well, if I wanted to, but I want to get the company just to get the extra creatures. So he hard casts a hollow one. You can see he's out of cards. I'm not sure what he's playing, towards here. That's about the worst company, but it doesn't really matter at this stage. I'm getting a Knight as well. That's going to put me to 5 creatures. And he's had enough. So we're going to Legacy. Oliver's enters this match undefeated in Legacy. Oh, this is really annoying. I'm going to find out why it's doing this. So you can see that's not a bad hand for me. I just need a target. I fetch the basic swamp because I'm always paranoid of Wasteland. So I get rid of his Thalia, the turn 2 play. And he's going to tap me down. It's kind of awkward. This time I'm going to get rid of the Sanctum Prelate because he can play that next turn, and he can just, if he names 1 or 2, then I'm in big trouble. You can see I do have 2 there. I just need some way to get a card into. Well, actually, I'm a long way off. I need a card to get into the grave, or I need a way to get something in the grave, and I need something to get into the grave. Entomb would be nice. He's 1 turn away from playing a Batterskull. I don't really care too much about Batterskull because all my creatures are have more power than that. The only cards I'm really worried about are Containment Priest, which he can violin, and the Sanctum Prelate. Even at this point when I've got 3 mana, Thalia's not so bad. If he does Violent Thalia, it'll be a nuisance more than anything. Okay, I can go for it now if I want, but it's kind of risky because if he vials Thalia, I think he would have done it right now. I decided to keep the Animate dead because I don't want to take 7 life from Griselbrand. So in comes Griselbrand. I don't expect this to live long because he has things like Flicker Wisp and what's the other one? Flicker Wisp and the land that can bounce Caracas. So I'm just going to clear out his hand, make sure he's got nothing going on there. He has the Flicker Wisp, which is huge. It's a big pickup for me. So he's going to tap down a few here. It doesn't really matter to me anymore because I've got the Dark Rituals. If he wants to tap out, I can still use the Lotus Petal if I need to. A second Griselbrand is not what I want. So now I'm weighing up. Do I want to draw the 7 cards, go to 2, and then take... So you can see I go to 15. I'd go to 8, take 4 from the worm. I just decide to swing at the stage and see what he does. He's got 2 cards in hand. Flicker Wisp, and if he Flicker Wisps me, I've got big problems. Phyrexian Revoker, I suspect he's going to name Griselbrand, so in response I'll draw 7 and I'm going to go to 4 here. Not a big deal going to 4 because if I'm going to gain life from Griselbrand, he's out of cards. I just need to reanimate one more target. You can see I'm going to be able to do it on board. Faithless Looting from the Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual to bring something back. Chancellor's not ideal, but hopefully Faithless Looting can find me something. So I'm going to... So, fingers crossed I find something. I find a Tidespout Tyrant, so that's awesome. Now I can go off. And you can see I've got the Lotus Petal and the Dark Ritual. I've got 3 mana floating, so I'm going to start bouncing his board now. Get rid of the Germ, which means he's going to have to tap out next turn if he wants to play that. I'll bounce Ether Vial so he can't violin the... What do you... I'm going to drop to... Exile the Griselbrand. Bounce his board again, so I think I get rid of the Batterskull there. So I can go back up to 8. I've got him at 12 now. I think this one's over. I'm pretty sure I've got game 1 here. So he's got to go back to scratch here. So you can see he plays out, he's got 1 card left in hand. I just cracked the fetch in case he got an inclination to name the fetch with the Revoker, although I always forget Revoker's not like Pithy Needle, you can't name lands. So he's going to tap down root. I got too many lands for that to work now. I'm going to Thought Seize and I can bounce the Stoneforge, and then I can get a card out of his hand. I believe I take the sword anyway. Just so he delays him a turn from playing that sword. So you can see he's dead now. He's got a top deck something, I think Swords to Plowshares, but he doesn't find it. So we're going to game 2, and I'm 1 win away now from... I'm just going to skip ahead so we don't see that stupid thing again. One win away now from inflicting Oliver's first loss of the season. This hand is pretty good. I'm going to keep this one, I think. It's got all the pieces you want. The Chancellor, the Faithless Looting, Collective Brutality will be a good one, but that's kind of puts a awkward spin on it. The turn 1 Wasteland. What that tells me is that he doesn't have a good turn 1 play like Mother of Ruin, so I'm going to go for the Faithless Looting. I know I'm going to lose my Badlands, but it also means that he's going to lose his... He can't play Thalia turn 2 if he's got it. So I'm just going to have a look here. Get rid of Collective Brutality because I don't need it if he's not going to have a turn 2 play. You can see he's got the Thalia there. He's got 2 Swords to Plowshares. So that's going to be super awkward for me to beat. I think I take the Thalia anyway, so he Swords to Plowshares. He plays a Russian in port. And I get back my Chancellor, so this is going to be a good tax. I'm going to do a Thalia on the Thalia player. As he's going to lose that Thalia. But he doesn't. I'm a bit confused initially of that, what happened, but of course he casted it through the Cavern of Souls. At this stage I'm thinking, what's he got? Rest in Peace might have come in from the sideboard. You can see I've got the Serenity in hand. Means I'd have to crack my Polluted Delta to get rid of it. I'm tempted to Faithless Looting here. But if I Faithless Looting, it's going to cut me off from being able to play the Serenity. So I'm going to win the damage race, so I'm just going to keep chipping away. Sadly, my Chancellor's not working like I want it to. So this time I'm going to pull the trigger, I think. Put him to 10. I decide to fetch the white. I play Pack Rat out just so I have a play, because if I Faithless Looting and then next turn he has the... because you can see he's struggling for white sources. If the next turn he has the white source and plays Rest in Peace, then my Faithless Looting would be a waste. Pack Rat's more of a long-term option. I don't think he would have an ideal way to deal with it. But we're just racing each other. So I've actually got lethal on board next turn, so he has to do something right now. He needs the Swords to Plowshares or bust. He's going to swing in, not sure what... he's bluffing, passes the turn. Let's see what he's got. He's got nothing. So I inflict Oliver's first loss of the season in Legacy. He goes down 2-0. And it's also my first win in the leagues over Oliver, 2-1. So that's a good result for me. You can see that I take it 9 points to 5.